Hello, and welcome to the Banker's Tech Talk video series. I'm Joy Macknight, Deputy and Technology Editor at The Banker, and I'm joined by Michael Kent, founder and CEO of Azimo, a global remittance startup. Michael, thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
So can you tell me a little bit about how Azimo is really disrupting the remittance market?
Sure. So Azimo is a digital reimagination of what money transfer is. And if you think about big successful companies like Amazon, what they did to retail, a business like Skyscanner, what it did to travel and the selling in flights, Azimo is doing to money transfer. So rather than traditionally a customer going to a high street or their bank to instruct a payment overseas, we're allowing them to do it on a mobile phone quickly, easily, and significantly cheaper than they would be able to do it on the high street.
Okay, and Europe is sort of known as a bit of a, fragmented remittance market. Why is that?
That's absolutely right. Well, there's a couple of things. The first is that we have a very heterogeneous mix of migrants, people from all over the world. In the States, they're very concentrated from Mexico, Latin America. In the GCC, it's very much from Southern Asia. But in Europe, and it's one of the fantastic things that makes London and Europe such a great place to live, we have people from all over. So that adds to an element of fragmentation. And then until PSD came in 2009, you required to get regulated in every single state. So again, that didn't help the industry offer broad-based solutions across the whole of the union. Since PSD came in, that's changed, and that's created a real opportunity for businesses like ours.
Okay, and in August, you joined Theresa May's delegation to Africa. What were the main things that came out of that trip for you?
Couple of things actually. So it was really interesting. I know Africa quite well. We terminate lots and lots of money into all the different parts of Africa. I guess the first was, and it was hugely. It was interesting, and it was also very warming to see that in 2001, Tony Blair said Africa was a scar on the face of humanity, and that's kind of still how a lot of people out there feel about the continent. But for me, that was totally at odds with what we saw. Industry was doing exceptionally well, GDP was up, you had a new brand of confident entrepreneurs building technology and infrastructure businesses. So that was the first takeaway. And the second one was, we've got to do more as the UK to actually win trade and relationships in that part of the world, because the Chinese are pouring money in. Even the Americans, despite what Donald Trump might say about some of the countries in Africa, are putting vast amounts of capital to work in the African continent. And if the UK wants to, win in that market, which we historically have very strong links to, we're going to have to do a lot more. I thought it was a good first step. It was far too long for the Prime Minister to not be in Africa, but it was good that she was there. I think it's probably the biggest opportunity for the UK outside of our post-Brexit. We need to capitalise on it.
Okay, and in mid-2018, you did a funding round and raised like 20 million. What kind of advice could you give other startups who are also looking to raise money, especially in this environment?
Wow. So that you could spend hours talking about the different advice, but I would, investors like clear messages. So you've got to be very buttoned up in terms of what your business model is. They like big markets, and I think one of the interesting things is, as we come up to a Brexit debate, where is your market? How big is your market? And you need to be able to articulate that very well. And then, particularly for early stage investors, they're looking at the team. So make sure that you have absolutely the best team that you possibly can, and you articulate their strengths, because you're telling a story. And if that team is backable, then I'm not sure whether the current environment is good or bad at the moment. I think we're kind of feeling like everyone's in a bit of an inflection point. But private equity and venture capital are now very well established asset classes, and if you've got a good idea, know that you will get funded. 99% of people will say no, but you only need one to say yes.
Okay, and what do you think the future of money transfer will look like?
Wow. Big question. I think it's going to completely disappear from the high street. So much in the same way that the banks will be very limited in terms of their retail networks, money transfer will completely disappear. It will become wholly digital. That direction of travel is very easy to see. You can argue over the time scale, is it 5 years, 10 years, or 15? But that's a fact. And then I think it's going to become much more deeply integrated into the technical tools that people use on a daily basis. So you're starting to see interesting things happen with the messaging services, platforms like WhatsApp, platforms like Viber. So interesting parts of the ecosystem happening there, and it's just going to become seamless. I mean, the idea that you have to wait 24, 48 hours for money to arrive from one half of the world to the other when the WhatsApp message gets there in seconds is just anathema. So I think that's gonna change, and that's where we're going to land. And like most of these technological trends, it'll happen slowly and then it'll happen very fast.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Michael.
Great, thank you.